Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you, talking to you all about UFC 184, the big UFC pay-per-view that's going to be going down February 28th from the Staples Center. UFC 184, Ronda Rousey versus Cat Zingano. Lots of backstage things coming up about this show. Basically, it was only a few years ago that Dana White swore up and down that there would never be a women's fight inside of UFC. Then the women's division really won over Dana. He started bringing the girls in, and they started really delivering on the main stage, really being, Ronda Rousey stepping up and showing that she could be a major star inside of MMA and UFC. And this is not the first pay-per-view that Ronda Rousey is, really main evented, but, normally there's a real strong card built around her. And if you were going to be ordering UFC 184, Rousey versus Zingano, you're going to be doing this just for the one main reason of you want to see Ronda Rousey fight. Basically, there were some fights that were supposed to be on this show, mainly being Chris Weidman going up against Vitor Belfort to serve as the main event. Of course, this was a match that was supposed to happen at UFC 183, and it was also bumped to UFC 181. However, in late January, it was announced that Weidman was pulling out of this fight, citing that he had sustained an injury during training. Basically, UFC was forced to bump Ronda up into the main event, and basically they weren't able to save this with any kind of an undercard. Basically, you have Holly Holm going up against Pennington. There's lots of talk about Holly Holm being a big star inside of UFC. Maybe she could be one of the girls to step up and really show Ronda Rousey a tough fight in the main event. Ronda Rousey is somebody who loves to fight. She's going to do this for fun. She's going to make a lot of money while she's doing it. Every time a new opponent comes up, it's always going to be the toughest opponent that Ronda Rousey's always faced, is the way the UFC always builds it. Cat Zingano that's out there. Lots of people like to talk about Ronda Rousey's outside interests, outside of fighting. There was always talk, when she made the Expendables. Of course, she's doing a lot of press for the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition that came out that she was featured in. She does a lot of commercials. She's involved heavily with the Reebok advertising deal that just came out with her and John Jones being sort of the faces of UFC of this deal that people picked up and they're really running with right now. People are thinking that if Holly Holm is able to win this fight, she's not one of the best girls that are in there, but she is a very marketable girl and somebody that they would love if Rousey was to lose to somebody to pass the torch in the women's division. There's always her, of course. Ronda Rousey. The one time that I really believe that she had a tough fight that was going to be on her hands was a past Olympic fighter that was Sarah McMahon at UFC 170. Of course, that was a fight that lasted all of about a minute, but when McMahon really did her pre-fight interview and she talked about how she'd been training for this fight for 3 years, and I don't know if she slipped up or meant what she meant what she said when she said that she wished she had more time to train for this fight when she'd already been training for 3 years. It sort of showed me that she knew that she was going to be walking into this. Miesha Tate is the one person that's really pushed Ronda Rousey the farthest. Basically, that was a fight at 168. Which went into the third round, but Ronda Rousey has had a long streak of all of her matches except for one, basically being able to be ended in the first round. The McMahon fight just went over a minute. Alexa Davis went 16 seconds at UFC 175. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think Cat Zingano is going to be coming in there, even though she is undefeated. I don't think she's going to be having the best chance in this fight. I think that Vegas has this already as Rousey being a 9-1 favorite, but Cat Zingano has ran through some of the biggest names, beating Nunes, Tate, Pennington, and other names along the way. But this is going to be the good one. Definitely a stacked main event with nothing really on the undercard. So the story of my life when it comes to UFC and these long shows with not knowing anybody. But I keep watching these shows, hoping that somebody jumps off, and I really like following them. And we'll see where we go from there. Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here with UFC 184, talking all about the women's bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey going up against Cat Zingano. The big battle of undefeated fighters going out of this. Basically, Ronda Rousey basically being her first time ever being out there, really pushed as a true main eventer, basically being asked to sell this pay-per-view all on her own, basically. With the middleweight champion Chris Weidman basically being offered this show due to injury. Basically, she has no help in the undercard with basically another chick fight in the semi-main with Holly Holm going up against Raquel Pennington. Basically in the undercard. Lots of big-time storylines going on behind the scenes right now with basically trying to find out, basically who Ronda Rousey is going to have as her true number one contender going after her. No slouch of a fighter in Cat Zingano. Cat Zingano comes into this fight 9-0, but a lot of people are going to be paying attention to Friday night's fight for Invicta in LA, when basically Cyborg is going to be fighting, and basically there's a lot of talk about after Cyborg wins this fight Friday night, that basically she might be brought in to be the next big fighter. The Ronda Rousey versus Cyborg fight that we never thought we were going to get is probably one step closer than it's ever been. But also there's a lot of thought about maybe looking at this undercard of Holly Holm going up against Raquel Pennington. Raquel Pennington is basically one of the favorite fighters of Dana White. Holly Holm is a big-time boxer who basically at 33 years old is having her UFC debut. With her UFC debut, basically she's coming in there sort of as like a now or never sort of deal. She's won most of her fights by TKOs. But this is probably one of the biggest fights that she's had under her belt. So, a lot of people are going to be paying attention to seeing what's going on between Holly Holm and Raquel Pennington. But basically all eyes are on Ronda Rousey. Lots of people like to pick against Ronda Rousey. Basically, she's won her last few fights without using the armbar. She's actually, worked up a style of actually knocking girls out. And winning these fights in the first round. Actually, she's only had one fight that went longer than one round, and that one she just basically finished, seconds into the third round in UFC. But Ronda Rousey, is what brings people to the table. It's going to be a true test to see, who's actually going to buy this show tomorrow night on Saturday to see, if Rousey's going to be able to get it done. But I think Rousey is a person that people like to see fight, no matter if it's male, no matter if it's female. People like to get behind her. They want to see who's going to win this deal. Ronda Rousey is my pick to win this deal. Where they go from there, I know that a lot of people have been talking about the Cyborg fight for a long time. A lot of people talking about Holly Holm basically being one of the next big stars coming out of there. But lots of eyes on this UFC 184 to see who gets this done.